All right. So yesterday we finished our chapter 8 discussion in about an hour, so we should finish early today, hopefully, but I'm not going to rush it. I want to make sure that we have everything covered. So in chapter 8, we're going to talk about how we can control costs, from the production, okay? Kind of the post-production. We talked a little bit about in previous chapters about the customer's expectations, following the recipes. And now we're going to be talking about how after we've served, after we've closed the meal period, how do we follow up and make sure that our inventory is correct, okay? So the first thing we want to do on our notes page here, if we want to get the total number of each item served, what do we have to do? We have to add them all up. So that first blank, number 1, we want to add each server's amount to get the total number served for each item, okay? So we want to add everything up in order to get the total number for each item served. So I want you to go ahead and take a moment, do your additions, okay? And compare your answers to your neighbor to make sure that you got the same answers. All right, so if we add up each of our 5 items, okay, we add up 68 total ribeyes, 70 total grilled salmons, 85 New York strips, 38 scallops, and 39 pasta primaveras. Do we all agree? Excellent, good, okay? So that's the first thing we want to do. We want to figure out how much each items that was sold. Now, if we're doing everything by paper and pencil, right? You could also go to your computer system and just hit a print, and it should print out a receipt or print out a report about everything that was sold, all right? So the second thing we want to do is we want to know how many of each item we've returned back into inventory, okay? So to do that, we have to do a physical inventory. What is physical inventory? Where we go and count it, right? Perpetual inventory is what the computer system says we should have on hand. As I ring in orders, that perpetual, it continually updates. Physical inventory means that I can physically touch it, I can see it, I can count it, okay? So we have to do a physical inventory in order to know how many items were returned back to our inventory at the end of the night, which means the 6 ribeyes. That means I'm going to, as the line cook, as the grill cook is cleaning up their grill station, right? They're going to take all that extra product and put it back in the walk-in. They're not going to leave it on the line. They have to clean up the line. They have to clean up their station. So they're going to take those 6 ribeyes, and then no New York strips, the grilled salmons, and the scallops. They're going to take all that, put it back in the walk-in cooler, okay? And they're going to count how many they have on hand. Questions, comments, concerns so far? All right. Next, we're going to have some shift notes. These shift notes are things that you as a manager have to make sure that you're keeping up with, because how many of y'all know what happened 10 hours ago? What did you do 10 hours ago? I can't think about what I did 4 hours ago, right? It's 7:30. So what did you do at 9 o'clock this morning? I don't know what I was doing at 9:30 this morning, right? You were sleeping? I'm jealous of you, okay? So this shift notes, this is something that whether you jot a little note in your phone, you have a little notebook that you jot notes down. These are things that will help you as we have to then go back and investigate why are our numbers, why is our inventory off? These shift notes will help us. So looking at these shift notes right here, we have 5 shift notes. Which one of the shift notes does not have to do with wasting product? The 86th New York strip. Who does not know what 86th means? Cool. I see some hands. All right. What does 86th mean? Not sent back. We're sold out. We're done with it, right? So if you're a server, you may hear the chefs or the cooks say, hey, 86 New York strip. That means don't sell any more New York strips. I'm out of them. I don't have any more. Okay. Sometimes we may even see, like in our computer system, the number 86 on the button. That means I have no more. So stop selling them. Okay. What is an issue about 86ing 1 hour before we're closing? We're losing potential profit, right? That means for a whole hour, we can't sell New York strips. Now, you may think, oh, well, that's okay. Just eat a ribeye. Two different steaks. I mean, I like both of them, but I'm going to go with a ribeye before I go with a New York strip, me personally, right? And so that is something that we have to realize. Maybe that means you'll see just a moment how many we prepared for New York strips. And then maybe that means, okay, next time we got to prepare a few more, because that means we ran out an hour before. We don't want to have that issue. Okay. We're going to come back to these shift notes in a moment. Okay, so let's go to your product usage. So your product usage is on the last page. Okay, the product usage is on the last page. All right. I gotta go to my PowerPoint for this next slide. Okay. No, I don't actually. Yeah, I do. So let's take a look right here. There we go. This is the slide I'm looking for. So in this sold column right here, you'll see the total number of each item that was sold. So go ahead and copy these answers over. So 68 items were sold for the ribeye, 70 grilled salmons, 85 New York strips, 38 scallops, and 39 pasta primaveras. Okay. So those are the items that we sold. That's our product usage. That's how many we actually rang up in the computer. Okay. 39. So 68, 70, 85, 38, and 39. Okay. So now, if we look right below, we want to calculate the difference of each one that we sold versus what we actually returned back into our inventory. Okay. So let's do the ribeye together. How many ribeyes did we sell? So I sold 68. How many ribeyes did I return? Okay, so what is 68 plus 6? Uh-huh. 74, right? So I sold 68. I put 6 back into inventory. So that means I have 74 total New York strips. How many did I issue? I issued 75. So what is 74 minus 75? -1. That means I'm short of ribeye. One of the cooks got hungry. Maybe the cook dropped it on the floor and did not write it in the shift notes. Okay. Maybe it was a refire. Maybe a guest we got the first one wrong, and then the server had to remake it, but they did not ring it into the computer, right? If they had rung it into the computer, then it would have showed that we sold 69 ribeyes. Okay. So even though on that ticket it shows we bring in 2 ribeyes, we're going to comp off 2 ribeyes, potentially, like give them for free since we made a mistake, right? Depends on how upset the customer is. And so by doing that in the computer twice, it allows us to keep our perpetual inventory equal to our physical inventory. Okay, so go ahead and do the grilled salmon New York strip. Actually, let's do the grilled salmon together. How many did we sell for the grilled salmon? 70. And how many were returned? 25. Okay, and how many did we issue? So 95 minus 95 is 0. We're right on. We have no difference. Okay, so go ahead and do your New York strip, the scallops, and the pasta primavera on your own, and compare your answers with your neighbor. All right, so our New York strips, how many did we sell? 85 New York strips. How many were returned? 0, because remember we ran out, so we didn't return any. So that's 85 minus 85. Issue is 0. Scallops, or if you're from New England, scallops. 38. That's my uncle and my aunt say it, because they're from Boston. 38 plus 5 equals 43. We issued 45. So you have to do the sold and returned minus the issued, because then that gives you whether it's a positive or negative. Okay. And then the last one, pasta primavera, 39. We returned 1. So 0. So which 2 items do we have concerns with? Scallops and our ribeye. Okay. Scallops, because we got 2 of them missing. Woo. Scallops is a really high cost protein. So we want to make sure we want to investigate why. We might go back to our shift notes. Okay. We might also go to our waste report. Okay. This waste report, if you look at your front page, remember there's just the one, the 86 New York strip that's not wasted. So I want you to fill out this waste report with the item. So for example, scallops, the amount was 1 order, and the reason was because they were rubbery. Okay, so Robert had scallops remade because it was rubbery. So that would be scallops, 1 order, rubbery. Primavera sauce, how much was wasted? 1 gallon of primavera sauce was wasted, and the reason? Sugar was used instead of salt. So go ahead and do the same thing for the pounds of pasta and the 2 cups of beurre blanc. Finish filling out your waste report. Okay. And while you're filling out that waste report, each one of these items that are wasted cost money. There's a certain dollar amount for that recipe of 1 gallon of primavera sauce. There's a certain dollar amount for the 2 cups of beurre blanc sauce. Okay. Each one of those things cost us money. So now what I would like you to do is right here next to the side, I would like you to rank 1, 2, 3, or 4 with, if you were the manager, okay, which one is the most important for you to address? Okay, so 1 is the most important for you to address. 4 is the least important for you to address. Okay, this is a prioritizing exercise. So which one of those 4 is the most important, the most pressing? Okay, the number 4 is the least, and then go back and pick out which one is number 2 and number 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, or 4, and I want you to decide which one is the most important. Technically there's no wrong answer here, because each one of these are issues that we have to address. All right, raise your hand if you thought the scallops being remade was the most important, number 1, that you listed that as number 1. Raise your hand. Why did you say that?
It's because of how expensive the product is.
Okay, with how expensive they are as an ingredient, yes. Same thing. What about you, sir? Okay, good. They should know how to cook. Did you get a regular Oreo or the cosmic one? The double stuff? Okay, they have the cosmic ones. I think they're wrapped in black wrapping paper or whatever. They have Pop Rocks in them. I did not know that until I ate one, and I was like, what is wrong with this Oreo? Yeah, they're like cosmic Oreos. Yeah, I was like, something is not right about this Oreo. Okay, sorry, I digress. All right. I don't know. It's interesting. All right. So scallops, they're expensive. And so we potentially might have to retrain somebody to say, hey, if this is a problem that's happening over and over again, David, I noticed that every shift you have at least 1 order of scallops that comes back rubbery. We need to work on this. Okay. The gallon of Primavera, who listed that as number 1? Okay. Why? It's a lot of okay, that's a gallon. It's a lot of sauce. What else? Okay, so potentially labeling issue or negligence, right? Right. Yeah, absolutely. What else? Anybody else? Anything else to add to that for the pasta primavera? Yes. Yeah. So now we have to remake that, right? And we have to remake that. 2 things. Not only does it take me the first time to make it, that's my hourly wage. I have to spend more hourly wage to remake it. But now, remember, I order based on my par and what's supposed to be ordered. But now I'm using double the product, which means I could potentially run out of that product before my next order. Anybody else in the back for this one? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So separate our salt and our sugar away from each other, or potentially if there is a labeling issue, there's a labeling issue, and I use sugar in pasta primavera instead of salt. Where else did I use sugar instead of salt, right? And so that could be a potential problem moving forward that I'm be wasting even more product. Okay, good.
Depending on the timing.
Uh-huh.
Like say that you got nothing to start.
Exactly. If that's what you're making first thing in the morning, and now you have to spend more time, we open for the day, and now I can't sell pasta primavera yet, right? Because I don't have the sauce ready. Good. If we think about this, how many ounces are in 1 gallon? 128. So if I have, let's say, a 4-ounce serving of pasta sauce, how many servings is that? 32 servings. That's 32 servings. If I'm charging $20 for my pasta, whatever it makes me, whatever it costs me to make it, that's gonna be a huge difference, right? All right, good. Who listed, well, actually, let's do this. Sorry, who listed the pasta, the Primavera, as number 4 on your list? Anybody listed as number 4 on your list, the least important? Okay, cool. The 5 pounds of pasta, who listed that as number 1? Why? In the back. Yeah. 5 pounds is a lot of wasted, right? Yes. And Elsa, what do you think? Yeah. They walked away, got distracted, right? Maybe they were trying to multitask, and then our pasta gets wasted. Think about how much water it takes to boil 5 pounds of pasta, how long it takes for that water to get to boiling, right? And then if I have to start all over again, then I have to do that, wait for that water to boil again, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. We don't want people to be distracted or double losing their focus. Anybody list that as number 4? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If you had other dishes that had the pasta, you're on different.
Yeah, right. So maybe this pasta primavera, this pasta is not only for the pasta primavera. Maybe we have it for pasta primavera, but maybe we also have it for like a pasta salad that's on the side of something else, right? So that's additional other things that we would have like potentially miss out on. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Anybody list this as number 4 on your list? Why number 4? Okay, cool. Same thing. It is a relatively inexpensive, right? But it is a large quantity. So if I'm selling my pasta primavera for $20, okay, and it only costs me $1 per pound, that's a large profit margin that I'm making a lot of money each time I sell it. So again, different things. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just how you have to be able to justify it. Okay. What about the beurre blanc sauce? Anybody list that as number 1 of your most important pressing issues? Anybody else is number 4? Why number 4? Okay, cool. What else? So the quantity of it, but only 2 cups. Okay, so maybe you have to retrain them. Yes. Okay. How many of you have never made a beurre blanc sauce? Raise your hand. Yeah, it's not the easiest sauce in the world, right? We want to make sure we have the right people trained to make it. But also, anybody else have any other comments before I say what I'm going to say? Yes. Okay. Okay. Potentially, yeah. Butter's pretty expensive of an ingredient item. And how much butter do we use to make 2 cups of beurre blanc sauce? Probably at least 2 pounds, I would say. A minimum 2 pounds, maybe a little bit more. So, but there's all these different things. Somebody else also said yesterday in my class, I thought was really interesting. They listed it as number 4 because you could potentially save that sauce. There's a way to recoup that sauce if it breaks, if you know the technique to add more cold butter, or if you know the technique, I can't remember what he said, add cream or something to it, which then technically isn't a beurre blanc sauce, but we're not going to go there. Okay. So there's the potential ways of fixing that. Of course, we're going to have to use more cold butter, which means the recipe cost is going to go up. But if it means I don't have to throw away 2 cups and I can use just a little bit more to help save it, then potentially, right? So again, as a manager, you have to realize where all this stuff is going. So our scallops were short 2, right? Well, here's 1. So now we're only short 1 scallop. So if I go back to that shift notes, then I'll remember, oh yeah, Robert had a order that was sent back in a remake or refire. And so now I'm only looking for one order of scallops. Okay. So these shift notes are really, really important. The waste report that we just filled out, it can be really anybody who does that. It could be the manager. When I was working at Chester's Hamburgers, the grill person would fill out the waste report. So if we had a whole burger that was wasted, why was it wasted? Well, we put mayonnaise instead of mustard. We can't recover from that, right? So the grill person, let's say the prep cooks told me the wrong ones that had cheese, and so I wasted a thing of cheese, a slice of cheese. Or I was in a hurry and I threw my cheese back into the bin and I missed, it fell on the floor and I had to throw away 4 pieces of cheese, right? So that waste report, I'd have to fill out what I wasted. When I was at Chester's, we made our French fries fresh every run. And so any fries that were left over in the bin would go into a waste bin. And it was a quarter hotel pan, 4 inches deep. Okay. And every time I filled that, that represents a dollar amount of French fries that I'm throwing away. And so on my waste report, I have to figure out how many times I emptied the prep cooks emptied that bin of fries, and that has a dollar amount. Okay. So as the grill person, I would sign it, and the manager would sign it to make sure that everything was validated and correct. And then they would put that into their paperwork for the night to say how much product did we waste yesterday or during this shift. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns about tracking all of this? It's really important because that's going to help us identify where we have issues. Because remember, the more we spend on ingredients, the less we have in our profit. How would I, that's a great question. Dang it, why'd you ask? I'm just kidding. How would I prioritize this list? Let's take a look. I would look at the pasta primavera first. Because again, I want to make sure that I would first have to go start looking at other things that use salt and taste them to make sure that there's not sugar added in those instead. And there's a labeling, right? I'd go right to the label, I go to the container and I'd taste that container. And is it salt or is it sugar? Okay. I would probably put the 5 pounds as number 4. The beurre blanc is number 3 and the scallops is number 2. That would be mine. Not to say that it's the right thing, but that's just how I would look at it. Every single one of them need corrective action. Okay. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. All right, so now we're on the back side of the first page. On the back side of the first page, scoops. Portion control is a way that if our macaroni and cheese recipe says we're going to get 50 portions of macaroni and cheese, how many portions should we get? 50. How are we going to control that? Potentially using scoops. What are some other portion control devices, that you can utilize that is not a scoop? Good. So scales. Good. Ladles. Okay, we could use our eyes to make sure we're counting exactly, or we might have pictures. Okay, we might have a picture of what that dish is supposed to look like before it goes out. That way I know if there's supposed to be 4 shrimp in that shrimp linguine, then I gotta make sure I have 4 shrimp there. Okay, good. Okay, so we're definitely going to use the recipe, right? The recipe is going to tell us how many portions we should expect to get out of that. And then these are the control devices that we're going to use to make sure we get those out, right? So let's talk about those 5 pounds of pasta that we had a few moments ago. If I have 5 pounds of pasta and my portion size is 4 ounces, right? So 4 ounces of pasta. How many ounces are in a pound? 16. That means there's how many portions in 1 pound? 4 portions in a pound. So I should expect to get 20 portions out of this 5 pounds of pasta. Okay. So how do I make sure I get that? Well, we use a scale and we use portion baggies. So that prep cook is going to boil a big giant thing of pasta, and then they're going to take a scale and put 4 ounces of pasta, put it in a baggie, put a Wednesday sticker on it saying that this pasta was made on Wednesday, and we're going to put them all together, right? So y'all have coming up, I think is it this week y'all are doing the pastas? Okay. So we'll see if Chef Chris listened to me or not. I told her, I was like, you should have them weigh out 4 ounces of pasta. You did? Yes, she listened to me. I love it. I'm not even a restaurant guy. That's awesome. I love it. So, because I wanted to, and the only reason why I know that is because I saw people doing that at TGI Fridays. When I was a server, I had no business being in the back of the house but I was observing. And I was saying, why are they boiling all that pasta and then putting it into the baggies? Well, the reason why is I'm going to boil it. If I'm supposed to boil it for 10 minutes, I'm going to boil it for 9 minutes. I'm going to cool it down so it's parboiled, it's partially boiled. And then I put it in the baggie. And then I dump that baggie into boiling water to get the pasta hot for the last minute, and then toss my sauce with it, and it's good to go. When you order pasta, unless you're making fresh pasta, they are not boiling that pasta right there when you order it. It is already parboiled. There's no way you're going to get your food out on a Friday night if you're taking dried pasta to the plate, trying to boil it there for that 8 to 11 minutes, right? So that is how they do that to expedite the process of serving. At your work? Awesome. Where do you work? Remind me. Sea Island? Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's the easiest way to make sure that we have exactly 4 ounces of sauce or a portion of pasta. What if everybody at your table ordered the exact same thing and one person got a whole bunch of pasta and one person got a little bit of pasta? You can't eyeball that, okay? We had over the summer, I can't remember if I told y'all this story or not, but over the summer, I was helping Chef Chris. We had a big group of people meeting upstairs in the dining room, and they were doing a chimichurri sauce. And again, I'm the hotel guy, so I'm just there to help. Sometimes I will point things out, but I have to be careful because the chefs don't come into here and tell me how to teach my class. So I don't go into the chef's kitchens and say, hey, you should be doing this. Okay. So I walked in and I just noticed this guy was using a giant, like the big giant metal spoons. He was using that to put the chimichurri sauce on the plates. And I was like, ooh, homeboy's gonna mess this up. Like we're gonna run out of chimichurri sauce. And there was a little pan. It wasn't even like, I was just like, you should be using a teaspoon or something to put this on, right? So that the tool that you're using is important for the portion control, okay? They didn't get mad. I didn't say anything. I did say something. I was like, you might choose to use a different spoon, okay? Didn't listen. We had additional portions than they were anticipating. So not only were there extra portions served, like extra amount on each plate, but we actually had to send out some plates without chimichurri sauce. Now, luckily, they went out to St. Philip's College faculty. So of course, we're gonna take care of our guest first. But the faculty didn't get the chimichurri sauce. And we were scraping by at the end just to make sure that everybody except the faculty got chimichurri. Even if they got just a little bit of taste of it, it wasn't the same amount, right? So those portion controls are so important because that recipe is going to give you a certain amount, and we can't just whip up a quick chimichurri sauce when we're in the middle of service. And so that's really, really important. Questions, comments, concerns about portion control devices. All right, so let's take a look. No, I think that's about right. Scales, ladles. Sometimes people use ramekins to put rice in instead of like a scoop. They'll use a ramekin to put rice in and then dump it on the plate. So that way it's the same amount. You might even go ahead and bake desserts in individual ramekins to go ahead and control the price, control the portions as well. Or like, I think y'all did like the chocolate mousse or the chocolate cream cut like right before spring break and in the little individual ramekins. That's another way to kind of control it. Yes.
I see. Whatever they have on their menu, they put it in delis with that.
What is a deli? I'm not familiar with that term. Oh, the plastic pint containers. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, like deli to goes. Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Cool. Yeah. So like as people like, so if it's a 4 ounce, like it's a sauce or a soup or something, then they fill that up to that deli, and then that's exactly 4 ounces. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Basically like a mise en place, like a pre-measured stuff. Good. Okay. Let's talk about scoops for a minute. And the only reason, actually, I take that back. Let's talk about pre-portioned items. Pre-portioned items or pre-made items are what we call convenience items. That might be misspelled. I'll do my little SP up top just in case. I can't remember I before E. I before E except after C. I think that's right. Convenience. It looks right. Somebody type it into your text message app real quick. I'm just kidding. That's what I usually do. So convenience items are things that help us. So like if I want to purchase a 4 ounce chicken breast, if I want to make sure that all my chicken breasts are 4 ounces, I might order a pre-portioned 4 ounce chicken breast. It's usually going to cost a little bit, but it's going to save me money because it's going to keep very consistent, right? When I went as a student, I remember I was in Chef Brown's professional cooking class, and I was in charge of making the peppercorn crusted New York strip. And I said, "Hey chef, where are my steaks?" And he said, "Your New York strip is in the reach-in refrigerator." So I walked over and I opened the door. "Chef, I do not see steaks in here." He said, "No, you have a 12-pound New York strip that you have to fabricate into 7 ounce steaks." I was like, "But I'm a hotel student. Like, I don't, what?" I was like, why did they get salmon? They were all nice vacuum sealed individual fillets. All they had to do was open it and put it on the grill. He's like, we got to learn somehow. So that's when I realized that all the steaks you see in the grocery store put together make a New York strip. Now, to my credit, that was 2009, and I took Intro to Foods and Primal Cuts in 2000. So it was 9 years different.
Did you do it though?
Oh, I did. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so those convenience items can help save time. I don't have to pay someone who understands how to fabricate meat. And also I want to make sure that they're all consistent, but those pre-portioned items sometimes can add to the cost as well. I used to bake and sell cheesecakes. I don't do them as much anymore, but I remember one time I had a friend that ordered a cheesecake and I totally forgot about it. And he texted me and he was like, "Hey, can I get the cheesecake tomorrow morning?" I'm like, oh, crap. I was staying downtown. I was in my little staycation. I'm at a hotel. I can't bake a cheesecake. And so I ran to HEB and I was walking through, I got all the ingredients and I was walking to the frozen section and there was a cheesecake. And it looked almost like my cheesecake. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give him this cheesecake. It was a convenience item. I felt so bad. He loved it. He was like, this tastes great. I got a little bit of profit. It wasn't as much as if I had baked it myself, but I got a little bit of profit. I did after the fact. Yeah, I did. I was like, I'm sorry, it's not my cheesecake, but he said it was still good. I mean, it was a plain cheesecake. How can you mess up a plain cheesecake? Um, but those convenience items sometimes can help us as long as the quality is the same. If the quality is not the same of what your guests expect, how many times have you ever been to a restaurant before and you taste the food, you're like, something's changed. The recipe's changed. Maybe they went to a convenience item that they're trying to save money, cut costs somewhere in labor. I don't have to pay someone that can replicate this cheesecake all this time, right? I don't have to pay someone that can make hot dog buns from scratch and make them the same every single time. So those convenience items can also help us in our production, but they often do cost a little bit more. Okay, now let's talk about scoops. Scoops are sized by number. Our scoops are sized by number. So our factor in determining our scoop size is 4. The factor is 4. Oops. So if we have the scoop number, sorry, I take that back. If we have the size, like the volume, 1/4 of a cup, if we have 1/4 of a cup, we want to multiply the denominator, which is the bottom number, by that factor of 4. So that means 1/4 cup is our number 16 scoop. So if you think I need 1/4 cup of mac and cheese, but I don't know what scoop number that is, take 4 times 4. That's my 16, my number 16 scoop. Okay. 1/2 a cup. What's 2 times 4? 8. So that is my number 8 scoop. The factor is 4. The only reason why I'm kind of drilling this is because there is one question in your final exam that asks you the scoop number based on this.
So 1/4 is 6.
Yep, number 1/4 is a 16. Now, if we want to go from, we have the scoop number and I want to know how much volume is that scoop number, what's the opposite of multiply? Division, okay? So I take that scoop number of 8, divide by 4, and what's 8 divided by 4? 2, add a 1 on top. It's a 1/2 a cup. So 8 is my scoop number, divide by that factor of 4, and then add that 1 on top. So a 1/2 a cup. What is 12 divided by 4? 3, I add the 1 on top. Number 12 is a 1/3 cup. So my factor is 4. If I'm going from if I'm going from volume to number, I'm going to multiply. If I'm going from number to volume, I'm going to divide. Okay, and then just add that 1 on top of the fraction, and it gives me my volume of 1/3 cup. Questions, comments, concerns about scoops? All right, last thing, our cash drawers. All right, so as we're looking at controlling our service, controlling our costs and stuff during service, we want to verify what our computer system or what our tickets say is what actually left the kitchen. Okay, so we might have duplicate check systems where if I'm writing a check, right underneath it, it's going to copy exactly what that is. So I'm going to verify, this is where I'm going to check 1 roast beef sandwich, 1 cheeseburger, Apple pie. That's where I'm going to get my quantities sold by checking my tickets. If it's handwritten, it's a lot of work. Okay. We also want to make sure that all of our math is correct as far as our taxes. So if it's handwritten, it's a lot of work. Most places are going to go to POS, which is a point of sales, like Micros, Toast, Square. What's that? Glower? Clover. Okay, yeah. So those are our POS initiated systems. It keeps track of how many items were actually sold. Okay, and can print it out. So let's talk about our cash report. So here we have an example of our cash report. Currency is coins. No, sorry, take that back. Currency is dollar bills, is paper. Coins is coins. So in this case, I have $1,439 in bills. Okay. I have a $50 bill. I have one of it. That's $50. Okay. My coins, the same thing. I'm going to add up my quarters, my dimes, my nickels, my pennies. My total coins is $20.58. Okay. Now, my charge slips, any checks that I take in, charge slips of $2,489.54. And then $127.98 for checks. My total is $4,077.10. Okay. Now, what does this say? Less bank. What does that mean? $300 less bank. So that's what we started with. So we always start with a bank. Okay. Think about like a cash register has money in it at the very beginning. But all that money that's in there is part of all of this up here. So we have to subtract it in order to make sure that our sales matches the cash that we're actually depositing, what we're going to do. Okay. So we have to subtract that $300, which gives me $3,777.10. Okay. So that tells me that my total sales based on this is $3,777.10. I'm going to compare that to my report to make sure that those numbers match. Okay. To make sure those numbers match. So our cash plus credit cards, what's 3,500 plus 6,000? 9,500. Less my bank of $250 is $9,250. My report tells me that my sales is $9,240. So 9,250 minus 9,240, $10, which means I'm over $10. Okay. I'm over by $10. My report tells me I should be at 9,240. I actually have 9,250. I have 10 more dollars than what I actually should have. Is that a problem? Why is that a problem? I've got 10 more dollars. That's positive. I'm not missing any money. Something maybe didn't get rung in. The change is wrong to our customer. So that is an issue if we're over, okay? Let's do this one. 1,500 plus 8,000 is 9,500 less the bank of 100, 9,400 minus my sales report says I should have 9,425, which means I'm negative $25. Whew. It's not good to be short. It's not good to be short $1. It's not good to be short $25. That could potentially, if a customer dined and dashed, then basically means they left without paying. Yeah, could be an issue. Hopefully your manager would have known about that and they would have potentially taken some kind of like ways to either comp it or to ways to indicate that that's what happened. So the server is not responsible for it. The server shouldn't be responsible for it. But there are some restaurants where it doesn't matter, you're responsible for it. Okay. There are circumstances where people are just going to do that. There are circumstances where maybe you as a server just took too long to get back there and they're like, I'm tired of waiting, and they just get up and leave. Okay, so you kind of think about what is the reason why that person. And if you have a server who has at least one dine and dash every time they work, maybe it's their friends that are coming in to eat and then they're just deciding to get up and leave. Okay, so there's different things you can look at, kind of think about. Is this a pattern that's happening with the server? Is this something that, are any other servers having this issue? Probably not. Then we might have an issue to look into. So as a manager, it's your responsibility to problem solve, to figure out what am I going to do to correct this issue. Okay. There are things that we can do to control. Maybe if there's one person that's allowed in the cash register. So that way, if only one person's allowed in that register, it's that one person's fault that we're short by $25. Okay. If you have a lot of hands in that drawer, then we don't know who is responsible for that $25 being missing. Okay. And so there may be some places like, I don't know if Jim still is, it's been a long time since I've gone to Jim's. There's like a cashier. So you take your ticket up and the servers aren't cashing you out. The cashier is, and they're the ones who take care of that. Yes. So yeah, that's a good question when you talk about cash tips, right? So as a server, let's go back to this example over here. Well, maybe not, because I don't have $9,000 in my pocket. Hopefully I wouldn't. But let's say we had a situation where I'm taking cash tips, okay? And so as a server, I have all this cash in my pocket. My cash report says I should pay out $1,500. So I take all the cash out of my pocket. I count out 1,500. The remaining is my tip, basically my tips. It gets a little bit more confusing too with credit card tips. There's a way to take that credit card tips out where the server keeps that cash right then, if that's the standard for the restaurant. So there's a way to kind of subtract that from this $1,500 that's owed. Let's say I made $100 in credit card tips, then I would only turn in $1,400 in cash. I'd basically keep that extra. But if I'm short by $25, guess what? That comes out of my tips. I got to put that back in. If it tells me I have to deposit 1,500, then my deposit's 1,500. Okay. Yes.
So if they would bring in like birthdays, like a free, and do to pocket that money every time, and they caught him. It's like $1,000.
Yeah. You see it a lot, not a lot, but you see it with bartenders too. So if someone's paying cash for a drink, let's say the beer is $5, then they just may forget to ring in that drink, and then they'll put that $5 in their tip jar. So there's things you have to watch out for as you are making sure that everything is on the up and up. People, like I said, we had that 10-10-80 rule. 10% of the people in the world are going to be dishonest no matter what. 10% of the people are going to be honest no matter what. 80% of the people are going to be honest if there's the potential of being caught. And they know that you're watching, they're probably going to be a little bit more cautious. So, yeah. Any questions about chapter 8? No? All right. So next week, we're going over chapter 9. And then the following week, chapter 10. One of them is labor. And the other one, I think, is cash and our actual physical cash and our deposits and things like that. I think that's all I have. Any questions about the project? Okay, I'm going to stay here. So if you have questions with the project, you're more than welcome to come and ask. If you don't have questions with the project, you're welcome to leave. But remember, please make sure that you're keeping up with your assignments and your quizzes.